I've got to do something to get my mom back because this person is not my mom.
Jen motherfucking Jen, president, Jen motherfucking Jen, president, Jen motherfucking Jen, president, Jen motherfucking Jen, president.
Hello Poppets, how's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. Please find me on any of these social media platforms and follow me, especially Firework. I am helping to promote it. It's kind of a mix between Vine and Musical.ly. Anyway guys, today's video is a follow-up to the series that I've been doing with my mom about her alcohol addiction. The last video that I did talked about how I dealt or tried to deal with the decade in which she was pretty much drunk all the time at night. This video is going to be about the intervention that we did to get her help. As I had said in my last video, I tried several times on my own to get her to get help, to stop drinking, to be the person that I knew she could be. I basically became the bitch, which I don't know what it is in life that I'm always the bitch, but I just have no capability of seeing shit and not saying something. It's really, really hard for me to not say something when I see shit going on, especially to this degree. And I basically was the only person in my family who would confront her. There were different times throughout those 10 years that I just went at her like full force. And I was the only one that would do that, so then I became the bad guy. And the times that I would talk to her and fuss at her and we would get to screaming back and forth and yelling, and she would say things to me like, I'm trying my hardest, I'm doing the best I can. And I remember very distinctly saying to her, no, you're not doing the best you can. Because I know the real you, and I know who you really are. Who you were before this happened, and who you can be if you would stop this. So you're not doing the best you can. And she didn't like hearing that, but it was the truth. It really came to a head in 2011. It had been basically a decade of just her drinking every night for 10 years and being like verbally abusive and just not a very nice person. I never stopped loving her, but I surely didn't like her during that time. And it was really, really hard to get through. But this all came to a head in July of 2011. At that time, not only was she drinking a lot, but she had become somewhat addicted to pain medication, I believe. In July every year, we go to upstate New York for my family reunion. Well, this year that I'm talking about in 2011, my mom didn't go. And I fully believe she didn't go because she was in the just gutter with alcohol and pain medication. Now, to take up for her, she has really bad neck and spine issues. And these were prescribed medication. But she herself will tell you in hindsight, now that she's not an alcohol, well, she will always be an alcoholic, but now that she's not actively drinking, now that she's sober, she does not have the same level of pain that she had at that time. There's a whole science behind explaining that, but basically she was just numbing herself so much that any degree of pain was way worse than it actually would be if she was not drinking all the time. So she did not go to family reunion that year because she was having severe spine and neck pain. While we were at reunion, she would call me, she would call my aunt, she would call uncles, and she was on the phone crying and slurring her words and just saying that she was in so much pain, and then also she was in emotional pain because she didn't get to go to reunion. And you know, yes, the family members are getting older. One afternoon when she called me, like I said in the last video, I can tell my mother's voice. I can tell when she has some sort of substance on board, which has been a long time since I've heard that in her voice. It's been pretty much, I can't say since she's been sober, because there have been times where she has been prescribed stuff for her back and neck, and I can tell pretty much immediately by her voice when she has something on board. But that afternoon she called me, or I might have called her to check on her, because at this point so many family members were concerned. First of all, that she wasn't there, and then second of all, the fact that she had called several people and was like crying on the phone and stuff. People were concerned. So I might have called her, and you know, she's slurring her words, and I'm just like, Mom, you know, I know you're on pain medication, but have you been drinking? And it was, no, I haven't. I promise. I swear I have not been drinking. And I was just like, yeah, she's been drinking. But then she said something to me that she had not said before, and this was the final straw. She said to me, I don't want to live anymore. I just don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be here. And that was when I said, no, fuck this shit. When I hung up the phone with her, I went out and I got all of her brothers and sisters that were at the reunion, and I said, we need to have a sit down, we need to talk. At this time, she had 4 brothers and 4 sisters. I got them all together and I said, we are gonna have to do something about my mom. Everybody was like, yes, we have to do something. This is it. And my sister was there too, and my husband. And I was like, okay, when I go home, she's going somewhere. We're not doing this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. My aunts and my uncles were like, we're totally on board. And my sister also. And I said, I'm just gonna throw this out there, but is there any way that any of you, I know that we've all traveled to come to New York for reunion, but is there any way that any of you can come to Virginia next week and help me help my mom? All of her sisters were like, yes, except for one of them wasn't there, and that's not her fault. She just wasn't there that year. They're all older. It's hard for them to travel. So this was not a small ordeal, okay? We had people coming from Ohio. We had people coming from upstate New York. I'm really lucky in that the nursing job I have is mainly from home, and I pretty much make my own schedule. My mom is part owner of that company. So I called the other co-owner and I explained to her what was going on, and during that phone call I did break down and cry. This woman was very kind to me. She was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I was like, I'm gonna tell you something that is probably going to be shocking to you because you don't see this side of my mom, because she would be sober during the day and then when she would get home she would start drinking. And I explained to her everything that was going on, and I said, you know, I don't want her to lose her job. I don't want her to get in trouble. I don't want anything like that to happen. I've got to do something to get my mom back because this person is not my mom. And so in order to do that, I had to not only see all of my patients, but I had to start seeing my mom's. So I told the co-owner, we're gonna make her go somewhere, but none of the patients will go without being seen. I will see every patient, and I will make sure that every report gets done and everything gets done. So when we left reunion, we drove home. It was a really hard ride for me home. It was like a 10-hour drive, and I think I listened to Fix You by Coldplay like 5,000 times. I just remember, I will try to fix you. I will try to fix you. I remember just listening to that over and over, that I'm going to try to fix you, which I can't fix anyone. They have to fix themselves. So on July 18th, my Aunt Norma, my Aunt Jan, and my Aunt Mary Lou drove to Virginia without my mom knowing and went and checked into a hotel here in town. My sister and her husband came to the town where I live, from where they live, and they stayed the night. We all went out to eat and planned our attack. That night was very hard. I don't think anyone slept. And the next day, first thing in the morning, we got up, everybody had breakfast, and we drove to my mom and dad's house. I had told my dad what was gonna happen, and he left. It was not the best decision. It did not go over well in hindsight, but he is a human being who dealt with it the way that he felt that he could. It was too hard for him. Again, like I said in the last video, he just would remove himself from the situations. On the way there, I had to take a bag in the car because I thought I was gonna throw up. All the times I had confronted her and been the bad guy, you would think I would have been used to it by now, but I wasn't. I was freaking out, scared to death. And I had told my sister, I've said so many things during the last 10 years, I'm not saying shit today. Like, y'all can talk, I'm not saying anything. All of you can talk. I'm not saying anything. So we drove over there, rang the doorbell, and she answered it. And you could see the shock on her face. And at first she was like super happy. She's like, oh my God, my sisters, oh my God. But all of us were so stoic that she knew. She knew immediately. And we just walked in. My sister said, we need to go in the living room and everybody needs to sit down. We need to talk. And so we did. We sat down and my sister started talking. She had written out a statement and she basically said, we are tired of watching you treat yourself this way. We miss you. We miss the person that we know you are. We want that person back. We want you to get help. And if you don't get help, there will be consequences. My consequence, which I don't know if I could have even stuck to, I definitely was going to quit my job and find a new job so I didn't have to work with her anymore. My other consequence was going to be that I would never speak to her again, but I know that I couldn't have kept that, but that's what I was going to tell her. Everybody took turns talking except me. I couldn't even talk. I was just crying so hard. During that time, my mom got up and came and sat next to me and was hugging me and like apologizing for all the times that she was mean to me, but I don't really know how I feel about that because I was mean to her too. So I don't really want to make this out to be like she's this horrible person, because she's not. She was just terribly fucked up. at that time. But when we all got done talking, you know, mom wanted to know from everyone, did they still love her? And we were all like, of course we still love you, or we wouldn't be here doing this. Everybody was crying. I mean, even my sister's husband and my ex-husband, everybody was crying. And finally my mom said, okay, I'm gonna stop. I promise I'm gonna stop, but I don't wanna go anywhere. That's when I finally did speak up and I said, oh, no, you're going somewhere. I've already picked out where you're going. You're going today. We had picked out a place in Winchester, Virginia, which is about 4 hours away from here. And I had already figured out how much it was gonna cost. I had figured out how we were gonna pay for it. But she was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I said, well, if you're not going anywhere, then we're all leaving and good luck. We're out. We're all out. And she was like, I don't want to do that. I still need y'all. And I was like, well, then you're going today. It was like this push and pull between us. Finally, I looked at her and I said, do you want a drink? And she was like, yes. And it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I said, all right, have a drink. My brother-in-law had already asked her, have you been drinking today? And she was like, yes. And he was like, how many have you had today? And she was like, 2. Guys, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. But she had gotten to the point where she had to drink when she woke up because she would have the shakes so bad if she didn't. That's why it's hard for me when people talk about alcoholism or addiction being a choice, because I understand that, yeah, you chose to drink at the beginning. There's so many people that drink that are not alcoholics. I'm not really gonna get all into that because I don't want to have an argument, but I know flat out that my mom wanted to stop and she couldn't. And I know that it had gotten to the point where she physically had to drink to be able to function. So at the very least, that is a chemical dependence. I'm not gonna sit here and argue with people about alcoholism being a choice or a disease. I'm not gonna do that because honestly, I've had to live it. So you're not going to diminish my experience by getting in an argument on words. I know flat out that my mom wanted to stop and could not. So whether that's an addiction or a disease or a choice or whatever, I don't give a fuck. I know that my mom wanted to stop and she could not. So I said, okay, then have a drink. And she drank a drink, bourbon. That was always her drug of choice. And then she had another drink. It seemed like maybe within an hour she was fucked up. And I said, okay, grab your stuff, get in the car, we're going. So we did a caravan to the hospital about 45 miles away. My mom rode with her sisters. And me and my husband rode with my sister and her husband. We went to the ER to check her in and to tell them that she needed to go to detox, because you can't just go right into rehab drunk. You got to go to a hospital and be detoxed, and then you can go to rehab. Part of that is because, especially with drugs, if you quit something, if you quit a substance like that, your body is going to have negative reactions because it needs that drug or that substance to survive. Like I said, she had gotten to the point where she had to drink in the mornings. And so a rehab facility is not equipped to deal with medical emergencies that might come from that. So you have to go to the hospital and be detoxed. So she was so drunk when we got her to the hospital that I think they kept her in the ER for like 4 to 6 hours. She was obnoxious for the first few hours. I'll never forget when we all pulled up to the hospital. My aunts that were in the front seat got out and opened the door, and they opened the door to the back. And my mom was curled up in my Aunt Mary Lou's arms, just crying and rocking back and forth about how she didn't want to do this. And it was terrible. It was fucking awful, but it had to be done. She was in the hospital for about a week. We had to do family meetings, which were not fun. A lot of fussing back and forth, and mom was still in the frame of mind that she didn't really want to go to rehab, that she could do this now because we had gone this far. And I was like, no, you don't understand. You're going to rehab. So after about a week in the hospital, we went and picked her up and we drove her 4 hours away to Winchester, Virginia, to a very nice rehab facility that we had to pay cash for. And when I say we had to pay cash, it was not cheap. And when I say we had to pay cash before they would even really talk to her, I mean they counted it out in front of us and examined every bill to make sure that it was not counterfeit or whatever. My mom was there for 4 weeks. Me and my sister or my dad or whoever would make sure to go see her on the weekends. She was allowed to go with us to like Walmart, maybe go out to eat. There was 2 payphones at the rehab facility, and you were lucky if you could get through. There were only certain times during the day that they could use the phones, And so everybody was trying to use the phone at the same time. And if you would call it and somebody answered it, if it wasn't who they wanted to talk to, they would hang up on you. We sent her lots of mail. I know that she got the most mail out of anybody there because our family is huge, and everybody was told, please just bombard her with mail and positivity. She wasn't happy the first few days. She was very angry actually, and she would call and let you know that. The first week or so was really rough on her, but then she settled into it. It was really hard on me because in order for her to be able to go to rehab, I had to work her job and my job. I had to see her patients and my patients. So I counted it was 45 days straight that I worked without a day off, without a break, without much sleep at all. But I was willing to do anything to get my mother back, to get the person that I knew back. I was willing to do anything to get her back. This story has a happy ending. This is really unheard of. Since 2011, my mom has been sober. She did not even choose to go to meetings. They tell you in rehab you have to go to meetings when you get out. You have to work the system. You have to make sure that you do your work every day. But my mom said something that makes sense. She said when she was in rehab and they were going to meetings every day, she would see different people from the community at meetings every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And this is just her opinion. But she said that it seemed like those people were addicted to the meetings. Those people were addicted to being addicted. And she said that she just simply chose to not do that. She walked out of rehab. She has not been to a meeting since. She has been sober ever since. But she says that sobriety is something that you work at every day. How she works at it, I really don't know. We don't get into it. But she thanks me and my sister all the time for giving her her life back. That's how she puts it. I can't tell you how many times I've apologized to her for being mean to her during that time. And there's been times she's apologized to me, but I think none of that matters because I know that that wasn't my mother. That person was not my mother. So that's how we did my mom's intervention. If you are struggling, please get help. I don't have any magic answers. Just please get help. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you have, thank you so much. Please make sure you click the little bell icon down below so it will tell you every time I put up a new video. I do videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I try to do a vlog on Fridays. So come back and see me next time. I hope you all have a great day. I love you. Bye!
Lights will guide